it's Robin, RS Island Crafts, and welcome to my studio. This is my Whip It Wednesday video where I'm going to show you the crafty goodness that I've been working on this week. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on the live stream and for watching the replay while I showed you how I take some itty bitty scraps and turn them into a zipper pouch. Now this one was just a quick example of how to sew a zipper pouch so that we could go ahead and just run through this one quickly. I always enjoy hanging out with everyone, and it's even better when I get to play with small bits of scraps and create something. As I'm looking at this, I could have left this off completely and just had that panel coming down. That would have looked really good too. I kind of wish I would have left that off, but this works too. When I'm doing a whole bunch of videos and editing or computer stuff, or, occasionally we have to clean the house and do laundry, I love ending my day by just whipping up a zipper pouch. They're so useful for so many things. I will always have zipper pouches in my Etsy shop where you will find these two listed very soon if they're not already there. So check it out down below in the description box and see if they're listed. If you didn't watch the live stream, this is actually the back of fabric. Can you see these lighter bits and stuff? So it had these lighter veins on the right side of the fabric, but when I flipped it over, I loved this dark look. So remember, there's always two sides of your fabric. Sometimes the other side will work better for what you need. I love the challenge of just going into the stash of what I have and creating something without going to the store and buying anything. Now granted, I do need to keep a lot of things on hand just to make sure I can. Zippers for one, I need to have a variety of zippers in different colors and just some neutral colors to make sure it'll work for anything. But it is nice when I can just go into my stash, I have the batting, the fusible fleece, and the fabric, grab a zipper, and off I go. So I hope that gave you guys some ideas of what you can make. Because zipper pouches are so versatile, it's unlimited of what you can put inside them. Just to show some of the scraps that I've been sewing together that haven't actually been turned into anything yet, I showed these on the live stream, but I had these were someone's scraps from a layer cake, so I sewed these together. And I sorted them by color and sewed them that way so they can get turned into something, or I could cut them up, mix these all together, and create one larger project out of whatever I do. I haven't decided yet. I almost want to cut them up. I'm really close to doing that, but I might just leave them as is. They could easily become a zipper pouch the way they are. These guys are 6.5 inches by 10 inches, since it's a 10-inch layer cake. And they were just 1-inch strips that someone had trimmed off of a layer cake because they needed a 9-inch piece of fabric versus a 10. And they shared those scraps with me, and now I'm going to have one project or 3, or I could even have more made from these scraps. So someone also sent me some of their scraps, I'm guessing from a Dresden plate project. So I have these, or it could be some other project, I'm not really sure. I'm just guessing Dresden plate. I did have to add a black solid on because I didn't have enough to create the panel and to have the edges straight because one was crooked like this. You have to have an even number to get the straight edges without cutting off some of your fabric. So I created that one and I created this one. Again, I just added that piece of semi-solid black on the edge to finish it off. I'm going to lose a good portion of that when I do the side seam anyway, so it doesn't matter too much how much it matches because it has this black fabric that just has the flowers on it, so it'll blend in nicely. Not only did I receive the larger Dresden blades, but there were also some smaller ones in there that allowed me to create this. Now this little guy is 7.5 by about 6 inches. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with any of these yet. I have an idea brewing for these and which type of bag I want to make with those. But this one, I guess I could still just turn it into a zipper pouch as is and then just decide on the fabric for the back. I could easily use a yellow fabric. I have a similar yellow checkered fabric like that I could use on all of them. Or I probably have some type of polka dot that I can put on the back. So it's a great way to use somebody else's leftovers that they weren't going to use, and they possibly would have either set them on their shelves and stayed in their stash forever, and they just went and saw them all the time. They're thinking, I should make something with these. They've been sitting there for a while. I don't want to waste the fabric. I love the fabric. I love the fabric. It's really beautiful fabric. So then you just sit. Sometimes if we make quilts all the time, we might get our mind stuck at, okay, so I can make 1 or 2 Dresden blades with this, but I need 12 for a quilt, or it's not enough for a pillow. Maybe this will make 1 Dresden. I didn't sew them all together, as you can see, in the right shape. Depending on the angles, Dresden blocks take 9, 12, 24, 32 blades, depending on the size and everything. So maybe with this you can only get 1, or maybe there's not enough to make a full one, so you couldn't make a pillow top. So it's great to just think a little bit out of the box, a little bit different from what you normally sew, and just have a little bit of fun. Or share them with a friend, donate them somewhere, and let someone else have the fun and excitement of creating something with it. I've been sitting on these for a little bit. But since I've been tidying up the fabric room and organizing these little bits of scraps, I decided I want to use them instead of just let them sit in a container just waiting their turn. That black and yellow, it just pops so nicely together. I really love that combination. I don't know how I'd look, and it might be like a bumblebee or something, but I think it'd be fun to have a quilted jacket in all of these fabrics. If done right, I think you can avoid the whole bumblebee thing. Maybe just don't make stripes or something like that, but it might be fun to turn it into a quilted jacket. As part of my doing something with all of my little bits and scraps and stuff, it was time to do something with my batting scraps. For about an hour or two, for 3 or 4 days in a row, I worked on my batting bits and I Franken-pieced them. I saved a lot of small bits. As you can see on this one, there are some really narrow pieces that I've put together. That's about 1.25 inches wide. And I sewed many of them and turned them into the batting for my fabric postcards. If I were to make a fabric postcard out of one fabric, I generally cut brand new batting, fresh batting, not the Franken-piece kind. When I'm doing the quilt as you go, scrappy, crazy fabric postcards, then I don't mind using the piece batting. Years ago, I bought Robbie a topper, a foam topper for a mattress topper for his bed, and it came in one of those clear cylinder containers with the zipper on the top, and it was such a great container, I saved it. And I've been putting the smaller bits of batting scraps into it, and then the bigger pieces go in another container. And that container was getting quite full, so that's one of the reasons why I went and did that. I also went and took some of the longer pieces and I cut up a whole bunch for my handles in my quilted tote bags. I got lost, I couldn't remember where I was going with that conversation. I pre-cut all of these to 7/8 of an inch, and they're the ones that are long enough that I won't even have to piece them. So anytime I had long bits, whether it was 8 inches wide or if it was 2 inches wide, I cut it down into this. Now some of them I might have to piece, but I would only have to put 2 pieces in to make the handle, and others are quite long enough. And knowing how I make things and what I make, I knew to save those long strips of leftover batting from quilts and other projects, table runners, whatever's long, so that I can eventually trim them down to this. So now I've got a really great head start. I can make dozens of tote bags, and I can make dozens and dozens of fabric postcards. I was down to, I think, 3 pieces of batting left over for my fabric postcards, so I need to make some, and I want to make some, and now I don't have to worry about the batting. I can just go right to the fun part of sewing the scraps together. I try to live in my craft room with the container is full theory. When the container is full, that means I need to do something, whether it's Franken-piece all the batting in preparation for fabric postcards. Now this one is full. I don't have any more batting that I need to piece, but if I did, I would have to use some of this before I can do it. So now I need to make fabric postcards. And I always want to make more tote bags. So now I'm prepared and I'm ready to go. A lot of times when we go to start a project, we're like, oh, I have to piece batting. I don't want to go to the store. I can't go to the store. Maybe you're snowed in. It is winter time. Maybe you're budgeting it, or you're in a no-buy month. A lot of people do no-spend January. So you need to piece the batting. And you're like, well, I don't want to piece the batting. I don't want to piece the binding. I don't want to play with scraps. I just won't do it at all. And then you just leave it. So if I have things prepared, I don't have to stop that creativity to piece the batting, and I won't go into my good batting to make a scrappy fabric postcard, which is a good thing, because then I can make other things with the good batting. You know, it's all good batting. It's not like there's anything wrong with this. It's just Franken-pieced. The other thing I did is I went and I grabbed all of my old little, what are they called? Bobbins. Oh, sorry, words are hard today. I took all of my bobbins that either had little bits on. I also had a container that someone shared with me that was given to them from their family or a friend of their family, and it kept getting passed down. The bobbins were kind of loose, and the person must have made these a few years ago. I know a lot of people will put like 4 different colors of thread on a bobbin because they only have like 4 bobbins, so they just need to wind enough for a project. So I did that, and I put them in the top of my machine, and I put a regular bobbin of just my regular white thread on the bottom so that I could see at the top. Nothing was going to get tangled. I can watch. As I said, I went through 3 or 4 colors on several of the bobbins just to piece all of these. As I mentioned, as I was sewing, I could see that the colors were changing. So as one was running out, then I can just go ahead and rethread my machine with the next one. A lot of times, even though I have a drop-in bobbin and you have stuff going over the top of it, you don't see when it runs out. And I really don't like sewing without a bobbin, just sewing air, because I can go a while before I notice sometimes. So I used up my scraps, cleared up, I think, a dozen bobbins, and now I'm ready to work on more projects using containers that I already had in the house. This one I've actually had probably over 15 years now. So it's really nice to save my containers and repurpose them also. I really like these containers. They are great to put my finished fabric postcards in, and I also put my scrappy note cards in them. Keeps the dust off of them. They're easy to see what's in it, easy to grab what's in it, and everything fits perfectly. It's like it was meant for fabric postcards. So what did I work on with my patrons this week? Please forgive me if I've shown these before. I may have shown January, but did I show February? If I already showed them, I'm sorry, but we're going to look at them again. So I have the mugs done. It's really interesting on how this darker color makes it look so much bigger than this one, even though they're the same size. But this purple also blends in with the cutting mat, so it really does change it. But I have a snowflake, and we have the hearts with kind of a trail of little colors coming off of it. It reminds me of a kite with the, you tie those fabrics onto the string of the kite and stuff like that. That's what that reminds me of. So I have those finished. We'll be getting ready to do the March ones. I am trying to stay ahead for my patrons so they can have them done a month in advance. So February's video is done. They can finish this as a little mini quilt and then use it in February. So then we'll start March next month. I also tried to get a little bit ahead on my patrons videos. I'm trying to get ahead on all of them. I like to get a couple weeks ahead. I just feel like I'm getting ahead, and then when I look, I'm like, no, you're not ahead. You're only a couple days ahead when I want to be a few weeks ahead. But this is the next video my patrons are going to be working on. We are making a 9-patch mini quilt for Valentine's Day. I was going to hold this back and show you guys next week, but I'm going to be putting this into my Etsy shop, so if anyone would like to purchase it and have it in time for February for Valentine's Day, I wanted to make sure you guys had that extra bit of time in case you were interested. These are all red, pink, and purple scraps from my stash. This is a white on white fabric, so I used yardage for this, all the same. But all of these, as far as I know, I don't think I repeated any fabrics unless I missed something. So everything should be unique and a one-of-a-kind, not a one-of-a-kind, just a one in this little mini quilt. So it's completely scrappy, in the sense that some people consider a scrap quilt only having one of a kind piece of fabric. Like that Coca-Cola fabric, you wouldn't see it anywhere else. I consider scrappy when you use small amounts, anything that is leftovers or whatever, and you put it into a project. There is the back. You can see the gridded quilting that I did. I did my usual quilt a 1/4 inch-ish from each side of the seam in both directions so that you have that double grid looking look. This is a fun fabric. I think this was in my Advent package this year. And I thought it worked really well, and I used it for the binding also. So your scrappy word for today is scrap. Do you sew with your scraps? Do you share your scraps? I know some people don't work with anything smaller than a charm square. And look, I'm not saying anything against anyone because people use stuff smaller than me. I don't go down to the tiniest bit. For sewing projects like this, I tend to use things that are about 1.5 inches or larger. I do use some smaller strips for my note cards, and I do play with little bits every now and then, but for the most part, I like things that are 1.5 inches or larger. After I've shown you some projects that I've been working with that have 1-inch strips, but it all depends on the fabric. If I were just working with this plain pink fabric, I may not save anything below 1.5 inches or even 2 inches. I may decide, nope, I'm not going to. But maybe this heart fabric I really like, so I might save that in the smaller bits for a fabric postcard or for the note cards. I've moved away from just random bits in my scrappy note cards. I find it more productive and easier for me if I use strips of fabric and squares versus like totally crumb pieces. So I am moving forward a little bit differently, but you know me, I love to play with scraps. And the last thing I have to show you is I received a gift off of my Amazon wish list. This is Florence Flamingo quilt by Elizabeth Hartman. She has many patterns that I absolutely love, but I have a couple things to say about this one. First of all, I love this quilt. I probably won't make the entire quilt right off, but as a pattern, you save this forever and you can make whatever you want, whatever you want. But I want to start off by just making one. I want to make a wall hanging for myself, but I also want to make a wall hanging for you guys. I'm going to borrow the idea from Pat Sloan. When she reaches a new milestone on her subscribers here on YouTube, she gives away a quilt. And I think she's doing it every 5,000. I think she, just as an example, she did it at 80,000, 85,000. I think she's up to 90,000 subscribers now. She's trying really hard to hit 100,000. I'd love to just hit 50,000 subscribers to start off with, and then I'll start pushing for the 100,000. So to give you guys an advance notice, you might want to become a subscriber, because when I hit 50,000, I am going to be giving away a mini quilt made from a flamingo from this pattern. So I believe individually these are 25.5 inches tall. The square is just one flamingo like this, and then you make 9 of them. She also shows an example where you can put 2 together like that for a 45 by 45 small quilt. So an individual one is 17.5 inches wide and 25.5 inches tall, give or take, if you put an extra border on it or if you cut it a little differently. But I think that's a really nice tall long wall hanging to put like on a door or on, I don't know about your house, but I have some areas where I have these long narrow strips on my wall that could just use a little something. You can't put like a painting or anything there because just of the shape of it. So if you have something like that, like next to a door or by a window or something, a little mini quilt, well, I shouldn't say little, but a mini quilt that's long and rectangular like this would probably be a great idea to put into that space. So I'm going to make a pink version for you guys, and I might make a pink and purple version for myself. It would be fun to have a rainbow of colors of them and just put them all over the house. I've been leaning towards doing that a lot, making each thing in rainbow colors. So even if I make the flamingos and I have 9 of them, I can have one in the bedroom, maybe put one in the kitchen, in the living room, in a hallway, maybe on the garage door when you're coming into the house, maybe, I don't know, in the attic, whatever you happen to have, just to add a little bit of color to wherever you're at. So this giveaway will only be for subscribers. So I will double check to make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. So I'm going to start working on this really soon. And as soon as we hit 50,000 subscribers, then I'm going to go ahead and start the giveaway. I think I'm either at 42 or just getting close to 42,000. So we're not that far away. And the YouTube algorithm tells me how many people are subscribed based on how many people watch my videos. And I know some people go to a crafting channel and watch 1 or 2 videos and then they don't come back for months or years or never. And then there's the regulars that watch all the time. And I appreciate both kinds. So I don't expect all of my viewers to become subscribers, but I would like to get a good portion of it. Most channels, it's less than 50% of people who view the channel are subscribed. So 50% of viewers, 50,000 subscribers, that would be a nice goal to reach for. So keep an eye out for that. Pick up this pattern if you'd like to sew a Florence Flamingo. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!